Elizabeth I of England and Mary Stuart, Mary Queen of Scots, the greatest rivalry of all time? But why? How did it start? What are the reasons for this great rivalry? So in this Once Upon a Woman video, I want to discuss with you why I think that Elizabeth and Mary Queen of Scots were almost left with no choice but becoming these big rivals. They are each other's biggest arch enemy. And I've always wondered, like, really, is it all about religion? Or can we explain it a bit more in depth? Let's do it. Elizabeth I of England was born on the 7th September 1533. Mary Queen of Scots was born on the 8th December 1542. And what is remarkable about these two women is the fact that they were gonna be both queen regnants, but one was almost, born to rule, and that's Mary Queen of Scots. The other one was born to fight, and that's Elizabeth I. Nothing predicted that Elizabeth I would rule at all. Well, with Mary Queen of Scots, it was pretty clear that it was going to happen. Her father died really quickly after her birth, and she was made Queen of Scotland. Her mother, Marie de Guise, that I think we should talk more about in terms of her role, her relationship with her daughter, her relationship with France, but also her in her own rights and the type of woman she was, became Queen Regent of Scotland and really protected French interest in Scotland, but more importantly, protected Mary Stuart's interest in Scotland. Mary Stuart is going to be raised as a very strong Catholic princess. She's going to be sent to France. She's not even 6 years old when she arrives in France. And I think we have to understand that it's a very difficult moment. Elizabeth lost her mother. She was 2.5 years old. But Mary Stuart didn't lose her mother, but she was forced to leave her. And at almost 6 years old, you do understand who's your mother, and they were extremely close. We know that because of their correspondence. We know that because Marie de Guise kept advising her daughter. She was doing what was right for her daughter. Mary Stuart was set to a glorious path. She was to be Dauphine of France, so the heir to the throne with the Dauphin, which meant that she would become Queen of France. And this is something ultimately that would put the Guises family very close to power. That was the ultimate goal of the Guises, Mary de Guise and Mary Stuart. And that's very important to understand, because at first, their first goal is France, and France only. When Mary I died, on the 17th November 1558, Elizabeth, the Protestant princess, became the Protestant queen. And that is when the rivalry between Elizabeth and Mary Stuart started. They almost had no chance of having any type of good relations, because obviously Mary Stuart did not recognize Elizabeth's rights to the throne. And on her father's side, she was a Tudor and a Stuart, which meant that in her views, she was the rightful heir to the throne. But she was more than that, she was the rightful queen to the throne. And Francis were using the title of King and Queen of England and the exact same coat of arms of England, defying completely Elizabeth. And that's where the rivalry really started. Elizabeth was furious. She kept asking them to stop doing that. They refused. And when I said they refused, Mary refused. Francis II would have probably accepted it, but Mary refused. And even at the death of her husband in 1560, Mary Stuart still refused. And though we have some letters between Elizabeth and Mary where Mary can be seen as kind of kind and trying to have good relations with her cousin Elizabeth, don't be fooled. That's another thing that I want to talk to you about. Obviously, this is linked here to religion, the fact that one is a Protestant queen, the other one is a Catholic queen. If Elizabeth had been Catholic, would Mary would have wanted the English throne? That's actually a very interesting question, and that's where we need to answer their rivalry on different levels. And I'm going to give you my opinion. I think that if Elizabeth had been the second daughter of Catherine of Aragon, I think that Mary Stuart would have probably recognized her on the throne of England. Like, she would have been like, all right, like she is a Tudor, the rightful heir, no problem, the rightful queen. If Elizabeth, daughter of Anne Boleyn, had converted during her sister's reign, Mary I, which Mary I really wanted, to Catholicism, would it have changed anything? I don't think so. Because the real problem was not really Elizabeth's religion. It was the fact that the Catholics in Europe, and even Mary Stuart, did not recognize the marriage between Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. So it would not really have mattered at the end of the day if Elizabeth had chosen Catholicism, because she would have come through the same union that was not regarded as legitimate by most Catholics in Europe, and especially by the Guises. So it would have changed absolutely nothing, and that's why I say it's not really about religion, it's about what Elizabeth represented. And Elizabeth represented the break with Rome. Elizabeth represented the humiliation of Catherine of Aragon. Elizabeth represented the humiliation of Mary I. I think for a lot of people, especially the Guises and Mary Stuart, Elizabeth could not be the rightful Queen of England. Now, having said that, I think something else played a very important part on their rivalry. Mary and Elizabeth were pit against one another from the very start. As I said, Elizabeth became queen in 1558, and the man who was going to be by her side was William Cecil, a man who really despised strong Catholic and who really had an agenda for England, had been exiled during Mary I's reign. And I don't really think that he liked, any Catholic rulers that much. And we have to bear that in mind. Because Mary Stuart, with her uncles and then her cousins, the Guises, they had a really strong sentiment, resentment against Elizabeth and what she represented. But the men who were around Elizabeth felt exact same way against them. So it means that the men around those two queens are also one of the biggest reasons for their greatest rivalry. They're going to push them against one another. They're going to ensure that they never truly find a compromise. And though Mary Stuart begs and begs when she's going to flee in 1568 in England, and begs to meet Elizabeth, we have also to realize what she's doing at the same time. She's also discussing things with Spain. She's also discussing things with her network of very strong Catholic, ultra-Catholics. And she's discussing things with the Guises about how to get herself on the English throne. And during her captivity, things are going to change, because her main goal is going to change a little. What I mean by that is that she wants to be the Queen of England, but she also wants to be named heir of England, because she realized that Elizabeth is not going anywhere. But all these plots, one after another against Elizabeth's life, they're ultimately crafted by the Guises, ultra-Catholics, and even Spain. And that is the network of Mary Stuart. It really feels in many ways that Elizabeth I and Mary Stuart almost had no chance of reconciliation. And we have Elizabeth I, who tried to advise Mary Stuart on a number of occasions, and it always failed. Because I think that ultimately Mary Stuart had very little respect for Elizabeth I. I don't think that at any moment Mary Stuart thought Elizabeth I was her equal, and I think that's because Elizabeth I was the daughter of Anne Boleyn. The stain of Anne Boleyn's reputation on Elizabeth is something that was going to last all her reign, all her life. And it's something that's going to be used against Elizabeth by a number of enemies. We talk about Elizabeth and Mary Stuart's greatest rivalry mostly because of that. These two women were unable to reconcile. And I really don't think it's just easy to explain just because they never met. And I have a video for you on this very soon, where I'll discuss each point where they could have met and where and why it never materialized. But here I wanted to give you kind of a bigger picture, probably of why they are the greatest rivals, at least of the 16th century, but maybe of all times. They're definitely top 5. What's so intriguing when you think about it is that how their lives, names, fates, ultimately were intertwined. Mary Stuart had a son, and this son, James, the 6th of Scotland and 1st of England, became Elizabeth I. He's the one, in many ways, who brought them together. I really hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, I'm sure you will enjoy even more the video I have for you of why they never met. It's coming to you very soon. Thank you so much for watching this Once Upon a Woman video. I'm so very grateful for you, the viewers. I honestly cannot tell you how grateful I am. Thank you very much. Bye!